And we're live. All right. Welcome, everybody, to our first LinkedIn live event from ASGC community. We are so excited here for our guest coming up here. But just to introduce myself again, my name is Justin Williams. I'm the lead moderator for ASGC, ex Blizzard. And then I have my co host here, Amir.
Thank you so much, everybody. It's great to be here, and we have a very, very special guest whom I will let introduce herself. Jenn, please do the honors.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Jenn Panattoni. I am the founder and CEO of Aizle Impact. I am joined by my branch manager, Caesar Michael, right here. He is currently watching the street for bicycles for me.
And everybody, with every chat that we have here in the community, as you know, we try to highlight something really different. And I think Jenn brings so many different flavors, a panettone spumoni, if you will. But one of them that I particularly love is I love just straight up the work that she did when she was at Xbox, which so many people admire and recognize, including me. But I also love that she took it and decided to go do something of her own. And I think we're going to really dig into that and understand what she's doing with that, why she decided to do that, why she found her angle, because I think these types of things are always really inspiring for other people to not feel so afraid, whether it's something that they actually do something full-time or whether there's something that they do as a community like we do, to know yet again that it is something you can make happen and is possible with, effort and belief in yourself. And so, Justin, should we just get right into it then?
Go right into it.
Okay, that's great. Well, Jenn, why don't we start? I always like to do a little bit of, origin story with people. It's always interesting to hear if we take what the person is perhaps best known for, which I think you would probably fairly say was your work at Xbox, because you were there, a good long time. Mm-hmm. Is that something that you had of college age, briefly after college age? Was that something that was kind of always in your heart, always down the sights for you? Or how did that all come about?
It's a good question. And you'll notice he found a bicycle. So sorry he alarmed everyone. It's a good question. If you go back on my social media, I think 13 years ago at this point, I had gone to PAX West and I said, hey, my future career needs to be in the gaming industry. I love games. And so I think I've always wanted to work in gaming. I grew up playing video games. Some of my earliest memories are video games. I had an older brother, so he needed a player too for Turtles in Time. So, people were buying me dolls and Barbies, and they ended up on the roof of my house because he just, not acceptable. And that's okay. I love video games, and they're how I stay in contact with a lot of my friends all over the world. So, when I graduated university, my degree is in linguistics, which doesn't really lend itself to tech at all. And I did that because I speak multiple languages. I figured, I'll get a degree and go figure something out. I started working at Amazon, and I was one of the founders of the product safety team over there. And, I liked working in tech. It was really fast paced. I love fast paced work, but I just kind of hit a point of like, I want to go work in video games. And so I was interviewing actually at Pokemon and Xbox because they're both just kind of right across the street from each other on the east side of the lake. And, Pokemon couldn't make a job fast enough. And so Xbox offered the job, and I started working on the policy and enforcement team over there. And it was a lot of fun. Some of those people are still some of my best friends. And, interacting with the gaming community like we did, I saw that so many people wanted to be stewards of their own community leveraging gaming. And I was like, I want to go do social impact. And so there wasn't the function there. And I actually made social impact there as well. So I've been creating social impact ever since.
That's amazing. And something I want to dig in on there, which is one of many things that I feel kindred spirit with you on, is we both made that lateral from a big company. In fact, both from Amazon to our games role. So what if you think back and you go back to, how you approach that, what you did, how you position that for your games role, I know that'll be super interesting for our community. Like, how did that go? Were there parts that were really tough? Was at the time, actually, was it like not that bad and not that tough? How did that go?
At the time, I don't remember it being that difficult, which is a really kind of not very helpful thing to say. I had really applied to a couple different companies and, other tech companies as well, but gaming really just captured my heart. And so, I will say I probably paid attention to those applications more than I did other companies. I reach out to the recruiter on LinkedIn, which is something I always recommend people do. If you're applying to a company, you reach out to the recruiters. That's what they're there for. They make themselves available. So I reached out to the recruiters. I would work really hard on like customizing the stuff for those roles. And, now that I think about it, it probably was more difficult. But I was just so motivated and focused that it didn't really feel like work. It just felt like something I wanted to go do, and I was motivated to go do it. So yes, but yeah, it was interesting, because in my mind, I had to kind of make a jump of, program management is program management wherever you go. So you really only what changes is the subject matters, the skill sets. Really, program management needs to be done everywhere. And so I had to kind of get over the mental jump, if you will, of, I've been working on products that catch on fire and God knows what else I had to deal with over at Amazon. Will these skills translate? And sure enough, they do, and they did.
And then shortly thereafter, you founded the social impact team, which was such a huge accomplishment. I mean, that's a big undertaking to put on the table. I mean, how did you conceive of that? How did you pitch it? How did you put that all together? I mean, I'm sure that must have felt daunting at the time.
Yes. It was a multi-year long process. So Microsoft and Xbox have this event called the Give campaign every year, where every October they encourage employees to go participate in n number of charitable events that they have throughout the company. Some of them are like learning CPR through the Red Cross. I always hosted an event with blanket making for shelter pets, and to get people to come, I bring in a therapy mini horse. I will take questions later. But so in 2017 or in 2016, I was asked to help the person running that for Xbox. And then in 2017, they said, hey, Jen, you really seem to kind of like this stuff. Do you want to run it for Xbox? And everyone who'd run it before me had been in the company for 15, 16 years. And at the time, I'd been there for 2. So, of course, I panic. I tell Phil's office, I was like, yeah, let me go talk to my boss and see what they say. And I called my boss. He was at the line of totality for some eclipse. And I called him, I was like, you have to say no for me. He's like, I can't do this. There's no way I can do this. I'm not going to be able to do it. And he, bless him, he just said, I just cleared your calendar and you're doing it. And sometimes you just need that person who, with all the love and respect they have for you, kind of pushes you off that cliff and believes in you, as you mentioned, the belief in yourself. And so I panicked for 2 days. And then after panicking, we broke every record that month for charitable giving. Previously, I turned me and a really amazing team turned the atrium of our building into an esports arena. We offered cheese plates with our VIP seats for the esports. Like it was ridiculously fun, right? And so I remember the head of HR for Xbox was there, and she was, congratulating me. She was a member of the team. And I remember saying to her, like, if I could do this full time, I would be so happy. And she said, well, you should think about that. And so I started kind of working with someone from, at the time, 343 Industries, now Halo Studios. And because I thought, it has to be esports oriented. We'll go to esports. And so then I went around multiple places in the business just saying, hey, should there be someone who kind of centralizes all of this and really thinks about it? Because everyone else is going and doing their day job, right? And having someone kind of do this part-time without a central strategy or any of the kind of the knowledge to do this work, it's really tough. And so it was like thumbs up across the board. And then I would go pitch it to execs, and everyone's like, well, you know, I have to think about this and this. And, you know, I was getting a handful of no's for like, they're like, yes, this is great, but can't think about it on my team. So I was in the engineering organization, and the our CVP over there, you know, he heard me out. He said, hey, you know, what do you want to go do? And so I pitched it to him, and he turns out he's really smart, you know, those corporate vice presidents. He was like, you know, I think esports is an answer, not the answer. So why don't you give me your actual pitch? Which he was so right. So I went back and gave him the pitch of like the whole big program that I wanted to go do. And then they greenlit it. And 3 months later, we had our first event of creating the esports programming for the USA Games with Special Olympics over at University of Washington. And it was so amazing. I will never forget that event. It was just so touching. There were national prelims. We flew out the winners to participate in this esports event for an event that traditionally never had video games. And Tim Shriver even keynoted and opened it up. So just seeing the level of leadership and people that believed in it, it was amazing. And then it, you know, became what it did, what it has. And now with Aizle, I'm taking it even further.
That's really uplifting. What, maybe share with us of the entire time that you were there, Jenn, maybe even one or two other things. What are one or two other things to really give people the flavor of how much you did there, of projects or events that maybe meant the most to you or that stand out in your mind?
Oh, you're asking me to pick a favorite kid. Okay. I know, gasp. Well, I will say one I talk about a lot was one we had as a 4-year running program. So, and it's funny because we kind of play with the irony of the situation a bit. So State of Decay 2 is a great zombie game. If you have not played it, you should go play it. And you know, when the pandemic happened and everyone didn't know if they could go outside or how COVID was transmitted, and there was a lot of, you know, everything was going on at once, everyone got sent home. The Red Cross reached out and said, hey, you know, is there any way you can help us? Like, blood stores are on the verge of implosion. People aren't going to donate blood. We don't know what to do. And I sat there and thought about it, because one of the ways I approach social impact is you want to make sure there's that authentic tie-in, right? Because if the horrible way I explain it is, if you have to explain a charity campaign, it's like dissecting a frog. At the end of it, you get it, but then it's dead, right? I know, it's sorry, right as you took a sip.
I like that.
Yeah. It's a horrible thing, but it's just how it's the easiest way to explain it to people.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, we have this game where like blood is a theme, but it's kind of bad. So like, hear me out before you say no. And so I went through and I was telling them, hey, there's this blood plague, and you know, there's a theme of blood, but it's just because there's zombies that are covered head to toe in it. And your person can get infected with it. And if they get too infected, you either have to find the materials to cure them or send them to a really nice farm upstate. And I was hoping they would say yes. And they're like, yes, we want to learn more. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. And so, you know, talking to the State of Decay team, and they were like, yep, we're super into it, because a lot of the mature titles, you know, some cause partners, they see the rating and they're like, nope, can't do it. And so finding causes that'll partner with them, I always get really excited. So we had the conversations, we brought it together. We were trying to figure out what we can go do to encourage people. And so, you know, one of the things I said, I was like, we have to go donate blood first. I was like, I haven't donated blood in 14 years, and I'm not about to go ask someone to go do something that I wouldn't go do. So we all went and donated blood, and you know, it was safe. None of us got COVID. And so then it became like a several event partnership or campaign. So that year We played State of Decay on their developer live stream, and we actually had a Red Cross phlebotomist join us, which was rad. And talked about, the safety protocols they had for blood donations, etc. And then they put, and I'm not joking, the bloodiest blood-covered bloodmobile I have ever seen in my life. Amir, there was blood in the treads. Blood in the treads. They were so thorough. And I remember seeing this the first time, and I thought, oh my God. But you can't say that. So I was just like, okay. I was like, guys, there's no way they're going to accept that. And they were like, Jen, don't tell us how to live our lives. And I was like, okay, you're right. We'll just go see what happens. And I'm really glad that they pushed back, because the Red Cross, the only feedback they had was, hey, can you take the blood off of the windshield? Because that feels like a safety hazard. And I was like, that's your bar. That's okay. That's your bar. And I was like, this is rad. I'm super excited about this. And then that year, Red Cross credited State of Decay with getting over 169,000 people to sign up and donate blood, which, for perspective, is a full 2 weeks of blood donations pre-pandemic across the United States.
How cool is Jen, everybody? That's
so
amazing.
Cool.
Thank you. There was a lot of people involved in that. A lot of people. And that's one of the things about social impact. Like, it's a team sport. I could not, that esports tournament I told you about that I threw in the atrium of Studio D. I remember the head of Mixer at the time, production for Mixer, called me into his office, and he's like, do you have any idea what you're doing? And I was like, no, absolutely not. But I have 20 people that do, and we will figure it out.
I used to stream on Mixer. I was like one of the first people to ever stream on Mixer. I miss Mixer.
All right.
But you hit something here, Jen. You mentioned, sometimes it can be performative, right? And where it's unauthentic, and genuine. And in working in social impact, there is a kind of like a superpower where you can't force people to do things, right? And most people who do generate their time, give their time, and the Red Cross, like you said, or even just volunteering, they do it from their heart, basically, because something has happened. Like for me, example, when my mom passed away, I wanted to do something to give back to the community, and so I work at a charity now. And how has your experience, what can you peel back the layer, and what does it look like when we're, in dealing with people, because we're all humans, we all have different emotions, and you can't force them to do something. How do you get them motivated to do something in social impact like that?
It's a good question. I think the motivation generally is always there, but it's kind of getting the motivation to go where you need it to go. So sometimes I had questions where people would, they'd come talk to me and they said, hey, I want to go support this cause by doing this thing, this very specific thing. And I would always say, awesome. Have you even talked to them about it? Have you mentioned it to this cause and seen if it's even in their top 5 or 10 things that they want to go do? And, every time people are like, oh, I didn't think about that. So recognizing that a cause for your cause partner, they're also a business too, right? Like, they're running a business. They've got finance people, they've got, talent people, they've got HR, they've got everyone, they've got fundraisers. So it was always kind of getting those people to bring that same passion, but then bring it toward the business goals and objectives that we had. And, it wasn't really ever a difficult conversation, I'd say, because it's like, hey, we're still doing something, but it's different than how you envision. And the example I always gave, I mean, if it had been solely up to me, solely up to Jen, Xbox would have supported pretty much nothing other than puppies and kittens and baby orphan elephants for a good 10 years. Because that's what I love. And that's what I like. I personally, I volunteer and I foster, orphan elephants with the Shelter Wildlife Trust. I volunteer and go donate to humane societies. But that doesn't make sense for some of the businesses and games that we had, right? If you had thought about, horrible example, but you can't pair a big buck hunter with an organization that supports elk. You just can't. And they just having these conversations with people, just being very real about it, you just had to kind of level set a little bit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that was a nice question, Justin. So Jenn, you come out of all of that, and so talk to us about the thought process of when, even if it didn't have that name at the time, maybe before. Well, let's do it as like a 1-2. When did you first have the idea of doing Aizle in your head? And then you can tell us a little bit about kind of what it is.
Yeah, I first honestly thought about it, I think probably 2 years ago, because I had other people from other gaming studios, and I won't name them or the studios, reaching out to me, and platforms reaching out to me, asking me to mentor them in social impact. And I wanted to do it so bad, because I just want the world to be a better place through games. And I love video games. But, you can't really, because I was working for Xbox. And so I have to keep the best interests of Xbox in mind. But there were certainly times that I would send an email. I'm like, hey, organization I've worked with before, here's a person who has a game I think will work well for you. Go talk to them. And I've done that before. And so I just kept having these moments where that would come up, and I was like, what if I did this by myself? And then, of course, the imposter experience, if you will, of you don't know how to run a business like that. You don't know what you're doing. You run a philanthropy organization within $1 trillion business. And then, kind of changing the mindset of like, well, I'm effectively running my own startup within a giant business. I'm having to do a lot of the planning. The social impact work is really unique compared to a lot of business functions. Like, we were effectively a little teeny business in this much larger business. And then kind of at the beginning of last year, I remember telling someone, we were overseeing strategy for the entire Xbox portfolio, the brand, studios, working with the teams who were doing that work within the studio and the game, and supporting them, and sometimes just doing it for them because they were just so busy. Doom the Bar Cages is one of my favorite things. We worked very closely with Bethesda on that. But I remember saying to someone, I have everything I've ever wanted when I wanted to make this role. And then I followed that up with, and now I need to go make it bigger. And then facing the realities of, how do I do that when there are a lot of resource restrictions starting to happen across this business? And then just, it didn't have Aizle as the first name. I was thinking Alpine or Aspen. Jenn on the weekend's a forester. So very outdoorsy kind of stuff. But I also love the old Scots language. I, in fact, got married in Scotland. So I just was like, let's see what happens. And Aizle was born.
That's really great. Aizle is like a spark, is it not?
Mm-hmm,
yeah, that's a very, very nice name. And so now, what have you learned now doing this for a while? What is anything you want to share? Like, what has gone the way you expected? What are some things that have really gone different than what you expected? I realize it's not an extraordinarily long length of time, but you learn an awful lot quickly when you're at the helm of a new startup. So what's that been like?
You learn something every day. Absolutely every day. I love it. I'm a serial student, if you will, perpetual student. And so figuring out, okay, what do I need to take to my CPA versus what do I need a bookkeeper to do? Those types of things. I never had to worry about those before because I managed my own finances in the team. So thinking about that, thinking about, okay, I'm working with my marketing folks, I don't have a whole dedicated, social team like Xbox does. Like I'm at the helm, like all these decisions come up to me. And so I think finding ways to find those people you can trust and delegate to. But knowing, you're ultimately responsible. Like there were times when you work in a corporate office and you're like, okay, I'm responsible for like this part and everything else, like not my thing. Now everything is my thing, which is fine. I love it, but so I would say, just kind of the daily, sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, I have to go do that. Those are interesting, but I would say the freedom to go pursue and reach out to so many different people, the clients we have are incredible, and being able to work, I think actually more with causes. So we, our business is kind of twofold. So we work with cause partners. So think like the nonprofits, the charities that you love. And we also work with corporate partners. And, so having kind of the two different views and really helping. Right now the niche is gaming because that's where I've been for the last decade of my life, and working, but also a lifelong gamer. And having worked in tech for a long time, I bring a lot of that with me, which I think really helps. And it's really fun to find ways to support even more causes with more games beyond just the portfolio that I'm used to working with. I still work with those folks as well, and I'm talking with them right now actually. But having so many more options. For me, I love puzzles. Puzzle games are actually like Phasmophobia right now is one of my favorite games. I like the puzzle aspect of it. I do not enjoy the ghost hunty kill you aspect. So, and that's kind of a core mechanic of the game. But I love the game, right? So puzzles are just something I love doing. And so I find that all of these are just kind of like a puzzle, finding the cause, finding the partner, finding the campaign, bringing that to life is so much fun for me and so much fun for the team.
What do you think's the best puzzle game ever made?
Oh, why are you keep doing this?
The questions.
I know. Like, how do you define puzzle game? Because I would argue Zelda Ocarina of Time was a great puzzle game because have you tried to do the water temple without a guide?
Touche.
It is really tough. It is really tough. I actually love your answer, Eddie. Just that, because I think I think for a lot of genres that aren't the big mainstream ones like action adventure, we ring fence them so easily, right? We think of something. Of course, you could give a very relaxed answer, which is like Tetris, but then of course you exclude all the non-traditional things. But no,
I was going to say Dr. Mario.
Dr. Mario is pretty great too.
Yeah. Jenn, if you don't mind, I have a quick question here, Amir. And then also for chat, if you guys have a question, drop it in chat. I'll go ahead and mark it and we can get to it at the very end. Been seeing a lot of great chat commenters here. So thank you guys for attending. My question for you, Jenn, is that you mentioned the creativity of the puzzle, right? And how your new startup company is working with other corporates and executives out there going beyond traditional advertising. What kind of examples does that look like? I know that you mentioned creativity campaigns that you kind of want to go above and beyond, the traditional campaigns before. Can you just enlighten us a little bit more about that kind of creativity, that approach that you guys are doing with your startup?
Absolutely. It really, a lot of the answers to your questions will be, it depends. So it depends on, and that I picked that up from forestry. Whenever you ask a forester, you ask what the answer always starts with, well, it depends. And I love that. So I embrace it. But the answer is it depends. So we have clients that have reached out and said, hey, we want to go do this specific thing. And some of them, for example, we're developing gaming strategies for organizations that have never really engaged with the gaming audience previously. Because the gaming audience, as we all know, are very passionate individuals, all of us. And there are ways that you can kind of misstep in working with the audience. And so we want to make sure that we can set everyone on the right foot to go work with the gaming audiences. But even taking a step back from that, one of the first questions I ask is, I'm like, tell me why you want to talk to gamers. Tell me why you want to work with this cause organization. Because there are people, it's again about the authenticity. I want to make sure that we're working with people who genuinely want to make the world a better place and genuinely want to reach to these very passionate individuals, whom I'm a part of this community. I love this community. And so making sure that kind of everyone's aligned on expectations, aligned on, the values and the shared values. So there'll be clients we'll do that with. There'll also be clients who sometimes will be on retainer, and that will be the strategic guidance. So like ongoing, like, hey, this is happening. This could be really interesting for you. Let's get you an introduction. Let's see if we can get a partnership going. And then there's also the partnership development. And so when we get a client in touch with a partner, and I mean, it's effectively, at Xbox, same mechanism: game, cause, partner, campaign, ship, right? So it's the same kind of mechanism here. So our clients, we reach out to people who we think would have really interesting games or titles that would pair well and support them. And so, we'll keep that going. And you're right, it hasn't been a long time at all. And it goes by really quickly. But I'm pleased with the amount of outreach that we've had. And drafting SOWs like crazy. And it just makes me feel so good that there are a lot of companies that really want to go do this work. And they want to do it through supporting a cause. Because as some of you may not know these stats. I'm very familiar with them, but there are people who will actually change their purchase decision based on supporting a company who clearly espouses their values, and their values align with them. And so when companies, to look at like the business side of it for a second, for companies that are looking to grow their audience, which everyone is, right? Everyone wants more money, they want more audience, etc. So if you're looking to grow your audience, social impact is honestly a strategic growth lever that you can pull, because you're saying to your audience or your potential audience, this is what we care about, and this is how we will support them, and this is the work that we will go do, because we ourselves are not the experts. Some people can go plant a bunch of trees, and that's great, or you can go work with the Nature Conservancy, who has a Plant a Billion Trees program, right? And those are folks who are working with experts in silviculture, knowing where the seed zones are, what native plants are, all this stuff that no one really has to know when you work with the experts. So there's just so many compounding amazing things when you work with causes that I could probably go on and on and on. So I will right there.
No, Jenn, I wonder, you were talking about, which, of course, has been affecting our industry in a whole variety of ways, the challenges and tightness that we've had since 2022, and certainly other things in the world and in our country. There's definitely cultural dynamics going on in the country that present a very different dynamic than there were several years ago also. Do you feel, in terms of what type of projects you select or where you focus or what you do, are there a few kind of like notable things that have changed now in terms of your approach? Or do you feel like still, for like the number of projects you can take on, the number of projects you want to focus on in a year, there's still more than enough swim lane that you tell me, no, Amir, it's actually not that different?
I would actually say, I think the answer, if you had asked me when I started, I probably would have said, I don't know, let's go find out. But I honestly think it's in this line of work, in this line of business, it's pretty similar and pretty consistent. And the teams and organizations that know the stats that I just said, purchase decisions, purchase behaviors, they know this, and they've been putting it into action for years. And so you're seeing the return on investment, if you will, of their audiences knowing they're going to show up, knowing when they have these campaigns, and being ready for it.
If I wanted to pick a company besides Xbox, because I know you were there before, and someone is listening to this and thinking, okay, well, I totally understand what Jenn is doing now, and I understand how cool Aizle is, but I want to go pick one or two other companies that, in your view, again, not picking favorites, because there are so many favorites, but partners that are, like, in your mind, like gold standard in terms of the reasons they're doing it, the quality of what they do. What are just a few names that people could maybe look into to feel inspired that, like, yeah, that's the way to do it?
I mean, I thought you were going to ask me who I want to work with and what I'm going to want to go do. I have a really good answer for that one. I want to do a blood drive with God of War so bad.
That would be cool.
Wouldn't it? Oh, I would love that. Total side note. And then, Amir, I will get to your question.
That's okay.
That Special Olympics esports tournament in 2018, when we launched it, we had no idea what was going to happen. We didn't know how people would receive it. And you mentioned God of War, so this is why this comes to mind. Corey Barlog, who is, I think he's EP of the franchise. I remember kind of scrolling through Twitter, and all he said, like, Phil had tweeted out about the tournament, and Corey mentioned, he's like, oh, hey, that's awesome. And that's all he said. And that was enough for me to call my brother and my mom and say, the guy who made God of War just said my program is cool. I don't think you understand how cool that is. Of course, my mom was like, what's that? And, a whole conversation ensues. But my brother was like, oh, that's rad. So seeing that and seeing kind of the cross industry support, that was another reason I was like, okay, there's a bear there. We're going to go do this. But back to your question, who does it well? Think of Extra Life. I mean, a lot of people don't think of Extra Life as kind of a business, if you will, but they have their brand of, they do their big event, and they do several big events, but then they have made it so easy for anyone to create their own Extra Life. It doesn't have to be 24 hours. It can be however many hours you want. They will give you, overlays. They'll make it easy to support via Tiltify or any kind of platform that you want to go fundraise on. And it's a household name at this point for Children's Miracle Network, right? It's amazing what they've done. I think it's over, oh goodness, don't quote me on this. It's over 150 million. I know that since they've created it. And that's for kids in hospitals, right? So the magic that they can do and create that year over year is astounding.
Jenn, what advice would you give to someone who's listening to this and thinking, well, I feel inspired to, start my own organization? What advice would you give them in terms of kind of major things that you think that have really helped you be successful?
Believe in yourself. I absolutely believe in yourself. Believe in you. And if you don't believe in you, I believe in you. But, being open and being, I think being open to the ambiguous, it can be scary. There are days, I think honestly 2 days before we officially announced Aizle, I think that's when I had my existential crisis. My husband and I, we're building a house currently. And so we were out there, and I remember just going, oh my God, what if this doesn't work? What if no one wants to, what if no one wants to work with me? What if no one cares? What if people just cared because I was at Xbox, all the what ifs. And then really honestly, just kind of going, nope, you got this. You will make it work. There are people who genuinely love this work and genuinely want to go do it. And you have a skill set to go make it happen. And believing in that and harnessing the optimism. I think it's really easy for some people to kind of focus on the difficult things happening. Everyone's always grieving something at some point, and I recognize that. Me too, right? But focusing on what's possible and dreaming big. And I know some of these are going to sound super cheesy, but I genuinely mean it, because there have been days where you have to. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I beg your pardon. I was going to say definitely not. I I really do have to say, over the years, over, gosh, 20 years of working in school since college, I would say what you just said, in my opinion, is the biggest factor I've observed for people who can successfully pull off these things, which is some combination and intersection of self-motivation and I think like self-reliance. I think that is awfully important.
I think Jen said it best earlier, right? She said you got to bet on yourself. Sometimes you just got to bet on yourself. And that's a good segue to a chat question here.
Good.
Arion said, I know what you mean by restrictions. My dream is to start a studio that employs juniors to build games, their portfolios, and gaining experience. One opportunity can change someone's life. So just looking at Jen's background, it's amazing, right? Amazon, Microsoft, now starting her own company, and also a board member at Fast Company. I love career questions. How did you actually go up through the ladders? How did you get your opportunities? Was it a sprinkle of luck? Was it that sometimes you got to bet on yourself and you got to hustle and grind kind of nature? And then also, how did you get an opportunity to be a Fast member, board member? That's so cool.
Thank you. There's a point to this. When I was in high school, I worked at Starbucks, and I was once given feedback by my manager that I needed less self-esteem.
What? You have to unpack that one for me. Okay. What the hell does that mean?
What was that?
I think I just, that happened when you're in high school, you're 16, and they had said that go give samples to people. So I just started walking up and down the street, and then I walked in the liquor store, which is very illegal, and gave the workers their samples of, I think it was like the blackberry green tea frappuccino that had just come out. And he was like, you got to like take it down a notch. Like I said, I'm like, you said go do this thing and I'm going to win. Okay. So the point is, I kind of always have that mindset. I ask questions. I go do the thing. You have questions, you have follow through. I would say some of it might be luck, right? Right time, right place, but also I ask for things. I don't leave anything to chance. I'm probably kind of annoying about it. Playing D&D with me, I think, is a little frustrating with the amount of clarification questions I ask. And I'm not going to apologize for that because I need to know things. So asking the questions and being curious, this job wouldn't have manifested had I not asked the question, can we make this role? Had I not, gone to as many leaders as I did saying, whenever I got a no, I just was like, okay, there a no, someone else. Like the clue board went down, but there were so many other people who may say yes. So not getting discouraged, I would say is kind of how I did that. But yeah, I am confident that I will bet on myself, and I'm hoping that I can get someone to bet on me. And that has worked. It's worked.
100%.
In terms of Fast Company, they have an application process. And so I reached out. I was like, oh, why not? And I remember my conversation with them. They're like, your background is so different compared to everyone else we have on this board we have. So do you want to just like, there was probably a whole series of questions they're supposed to ask me. Like, do you just want to join? And I think what kind of won them over was I talked about the campaign Diablo did on Earth Day, fundraising maggots for a wildlife rehabber to feed their birds.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
It was rad. But yeah, fundraising 30 million maggots is kind of an accomplishment.
We did a cold, guys. I don't know if you guys are listening to this. Jen did a cold application, and she got it right.
And
cold applications work. It works.
You miss 100% of the shots you do not take.
That's true.
Hard stop. Ask the question, because you never know who's applying. Like there could be so many reasons other people don't apply. They could, exempt themselves. Put your name out there.
That reminds me of the story on like Uber, and just tweeted, "Hey, can someone help me with this startup company called Uber?" It was on Twitter, and someone said, "Yeah, let me help you." And now look at this, look at their company now. Keeping the questions rolling, we got a question from chat from Sabrina Summers. Any tips on time management or keeping focus? That's a good question.
Oh, Sabrina, this is something I am still working on to this very day, but I will try my best to answer your question. And that's the thing. No one is perfect at everything. I don't care what you see on social media. Everyone is lying to you. I post the most handsome photos of this gentleman right here being a very good boy, and you all witnessed him barking at a bicycle. Okay. just as an example. So, but no, I would say find what works for you. So for me, time management, I schedule things on my Outlook. No jokes. I had to tell my husband, if you want to go to dinner, you've literally got to put it on my Outlook, and I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
I know.
Oh, no.
Does he have to mark it high priority?
Yes.
Oh, no.
And you find what works for you, right?
I mean, if it works, right?
But otherwise, I'm going to forget. And it just, because I have so many things going on in my brain. And I had to have a conversation. It's like, it's not that I don't love you. It's literally, I forgot. It's not because you're not important. It's because I have 12 other things going on in my brain. And so, being open and honest about that. So figuring out what works for you. Yeah. And for me, I find taking breaks, the whole 8-hour chunk of 9 to 5. First off, I don't know who let morning people decide work schedules, but I have a very big bone to pick with that person. Number one. When I was in the engineering side of the house, we all blocked off our calendars till 11. And if you tried to reach us before 11, it's like, nope, try again. Not doing it. But, knowing what works for you, like, is it working for 4 hours and then taking a 2-hour break and then going back and doing 4 more hours? Or what does that look like? Or, sometimes I get really weird spurts of energy, literally at 10 p.m. at night. So I'll be playing a video game. I'll stop. I'll write some emails. I'll schedule them to send early in the morning. And then I'm like, you know what? I can sleep in. So figuring out like what works for you, because every human being and every person is different. Yeah. Trying to make every person fit into one model is a joke.
It's true. No one size fits all.
Yeah.
Another question from the chat from Kira. Posted on the screen. What kind of tools or software to use to help manage your business assets?
Good question. QuickBooks is really helpful for all the money stuff. You can try and manage that in spreadsheets. I am not that person. One of the things, so again, I'm not a marketer by training. I'm not a marketer by trade. I started as an engineering PM and then went to a marketing organization. So a lot of everything I've learned marketing, I've learned on the job. I didn't know what a CRM sheet was. Literally till about 2 years ago. Not even joking. Wow. And because it all lived up here. And in the spirit of writing things down so you don't forget, I honestly bought a CRM template off of Etsy. For Excel, and it works so well.
That's great.
It works so well because even if you have a programmer friend, I'm sure they could make you some wonderful like Power BI thing or automate stuff. And I was like, I don't know, Etsy. Like Etsy has a lot of stuff.
And Jen, I need to get you onto Replit. Replit is so great.
Oh yeah,
please do.
Yeah.
Amir just started having fun with his new toy.
Yeah.
It's like he went from, the old Stone Age of writing it down to a piece of paper to now it's like being all automated now. But I get what you mean, Jen. I mean, Etsy probably saved you a lot of money too, right? It was probably like $15 on a spreadsheet. But like you said, if it works, it works. I still know people who, even to this day, I do my recruiting calls sometimes and I have to write it down. I like something to hold physically as well.
Yep. Yep. I think, Kira, those are probably the two best pieces of advice I have in terms of managing those types of things. Oh, DocuSign. DocuSign's important. I love me some DocuSign. Is that weird to say?
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Yeah.
Yes, love it, love. There's I really think I think I agree with you a lot on having a go-to of what works best for you, but for being really schedule regimented doesn't work for everybody. But I find it works really well for me. Mine, Jen, is I actually keep, so we actually do put, Jess and I do put everything on like a calendar. But for me personally, I actually do an Excel grid. I'm not kidding, every month. And I block out all 7 days, and I block out every 30-minute chunk of like my best guess estimate of what I'm doing every day. But part of the reason is because I try to force myself to calculate how much time I actually think I need to do everything. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't do. Like if you sit down and you're like, well, if I was like off the top of my head, how much time do I need to write all like the LinkedIn posts for our community in a month? Unless you actually sit down and calculate it, that's not the type of thing most people like have right off the top of our head. So I've always found that's very helpful.
How are your burn down charts looking?
I need a heat map. I love a good heat map. That's what we need. Yeah.
Man.
Okay. Yeah.
I love it though. You guys are both, OCD, but I love it though.
Oh yeah, my husband's very much we'll play it by ear, and I'm like,
Yep,
oh
that's me.
no, we won't.
We'll play it by ear.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
But there's also, I mean, it's funny you mentioned that, because there are definitely other, we're like I mentioned, we're building a house right now. Some of that I'm like, meh, figure it out. But for work, like it kind of depends on what we're doing. So there are things I'm hyper organized in, and there are some things I'm like, I don't know, throw a stick at it.
I'll throw a fun question out there. This is a question that we like to ask our guests before. What game are you looking forward to in 2026?
There's so many. Why are you doing this?
I know. I'm sorry.
I think the game I'm looking forward to is a rumor, so I don't know if I should say it. There was a rumor and or a leak, so I won't say that.
I mean, as long as you're not breaking NDA, just say it.
Well, I don't have an NDA with Nintendo, so I heard that they're going to release Ocarina of Time remake.
Yes, I can't.
I mean, we have this Burn Sapphire right here. I don't play around.
Switch 2 graphics on the Ocarina of Time. Oh, I can't wait for the flute, the horse, everything. Fishing scene. Let's go.
Oh,
yeah, Jen. I don't know if you, I don't know if you know this, but I have a running joke with the community that literally I try not to let more than like 4 days pass without making some reference to the fact, which I find deeply frustrating, that Nintendo hasn't put Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD on Switch 2. And I'm not going to stop until finally it's done.
+1. Yeah. I'm with you on that.
Right?
I'm with you.
No.
Yep. I listen to the Twilight Princess. Like my Spotify is probably so confusing because I am trained in opera. So like Phantom of the Opera is in there, but then also I wake up to like Ocarina of Time, like the start menu music, and then I've got music from Twilight Princess in there, and it's again probably very confusing for people, but
this is how you know you have partners who are like really chill. I definitely have on my YouTube download list for like the car. I have like a 12.5-hour ambient soundtrack from World of Warcraft, and so it's like there's that in the car, and then on the inside, God bless her, I got that talking flower from Nintendo, so I'll be sitting with Jess and we'll be like chit-chatting, and it'll be like, it's 5 p.m. today, 5 p.m. in the house. And I'm like, you knew what you were getting into. Yeah.
Yeah, like you made this choice.
Yeah.
This is a choice.
Yeah. I actually like listening to Lo-Fi Boy because it's all gaming ambiance, right?
I have some lo-fi playlists. I think I have a lo-fi Nier Automata. I listen to. Oh God, that soundtrack is incredible.
Oh yeah.
I'm joined by my other branch manager. You can only see her tail right now. She's actually the result of one of the partnerships we had at Xbox with the USO, actually.
Ooh.
They let me play with the bite suit at Eglin Air Force Base. So I put on the bite suit with the military working dogs. And the guy didn't even get the sentence out. He was like, "Who wants to put the bite?" And I'm like, "Me, dear God, me." And he's like, "Ma'am, do you know what you're signing up for?" I was like, "Sergeant, did I stutter? Give me the jacket." And this dog lays me out, and I'm laughing. I'm laughing so hard. I'm having such a good time, which is not the normal reaction to having a dog on your arm, growling and biting you. And fun fact, they tell you if the dog is not, like, if you're not making noise, the dog is going to get you where you make noise. So I was laughing, and I was like, "Oh wait, I have to make a noise." And so I was like, "Owie, who's a bad boy? Who's so bad?" And the guy was like, "Ma'am, you can't let the dog know you like it." And I was like, "Sir," I was very unambiguous about him being a bad boy. And I thought Malinois were so interesting after that. I've rescued German Shepherds since college. And then I thought, oh, Malinois, that'd be fun. And everything you see on Instagram about them is true. Everything you see, they jump 8 feet. They are very brilliant. She gets me on technicalities all the time. But the next morning, I found her adoption paperwork and picked her up when I came home.
Oh, I love that, Jen. Most of my life, I've lived right next to a farm that's literally down the street, and we have, everything. But at home, I always wanted either a cat or a dog, and we couldn't get a dog because my mother didn't want to get a dog because she didn't grow up with that, and we couldn't get a cat because my dad sneezes. So the armistice that we had is I was allowed to get fish, and so I've had this deep regret. I always most wanted an orange tabby like Garfield. So maybe one day if I could win the children over. Yeah.
I know a fair amount of humane societies if you're interested.
I think the day will come one day.
Yeah. I'm gonna adopt them all.
I'm going to start sending you posts for humane societies close to you. Like, oh my God, weird. There's this orange cat.
This whole room we filled with cats and dogs.
Yeah.
That's excellent. Justin, I just want to be respectful of the audience. Are there any other questions that anybody had that we didn't get to answer yet?
We answered all the queue, but good reminder, if there's any last minute chats, questions, drop them in chat here.
Jen, this was a really, really, really special for me. You're a very, very inspiring person. And I think what I really enjoy is I think you've shown a lot of foresight with Aizle kind of swimming to where the puck is. I can say as well, I think something I think about all the time is, which you talked about a bunch today, kind of being in your own skin of how you're going to do it your way. And I know Justin and the other mods tell me all the time for us as well, you don't have to worry about being everything. Be the thing that is the thing that, like you said, you can do, that you want to do, that you can do well. And I did have one more thing I was going to ask you, which is within the stuff that we do, I'll put you a little bit on the spot. I think you have a pretty good sense for the type of things that we do as a community. Having seen that, is there something that comes to mind, and the answer can totally be no, that you think is an underserved need in the market for games people who are, having a hard time or looking for work, that having absorbed all of this yourself, you're like, boy, if there was X, that would be a great help for people that's not out there yet?
That's a really good question. I don't know that my answer would be something in terms of something more that you and the community could do, because I'm not just saying this. You all do such an amazing job doing what you do and putting together the resources that you have. They're so thoughtful. I would say I would kind of flip the answer a little bit. And I know a lot of people want to work in games. And I would say, a lot of the skills people have are transferable if they wanted to go work in other industries until they find the job that they love in gaming, right? So finding ways to kind of transfer those skills. Again, You and I both came from Amazon. You know, you and I have dealt with however many pizza meetings, right? Where like 2 pizza meetings or whatever that was. I never heard that at Microsoft ever. But every company kind of has their own culture. And so you can take those skills and you can, you know, go work somewhere else while you're developing other skills, or maybe developing skills towards a role that you really want to go do in gaming. And you can volunteer in other aspects of gaming. You know, it's a similar question I get to social impact. You don't necessarily need to work in social impact to do social impact. You know, we had a V team across the entire business where it was a portion of someone's time dedicated to this work, and that really helped us make sure that our campaigns were authentic. So you can take this kind of stuff on as a stretch project or a passion project as well. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, actually, that kind of ties into like I think our last question of the night here, Jen. From Ryan Perez, you know, if you were to turn back time and give your younger self some advice breaking into the gaming industry, what would that be?
Go do it and do it sooner.
Yeah.
Honestly, go do it. Don't doubt yourself. All the what if questions, like recognize them, acknowledge their presence, and then put them in a box, because they're only going to hold you back.
I think that Jen is right. And if you'll allow me, Justin, I'll say one really quick thing. And then I know we're a little bit over time for this lovely discussion. You know, something that people say to me all the time is they say to me, Amir, some variant of, do you think that, you know, I should go after games versus doing something else? And something I stress to people in 2026 is don't create that false dichotomy, right? You always should look for work. That's clearly something all three of us have done in different fields, and many in the audience and the leadership team. You never should stop going after the thing you want to do, whether that's games or something else. Just basically go after everything all the time and take the thing that's most preferred that you can get. But like, I would not create that gap in one's mind. That's something that I see a lot.
I agree with that. It's, you know, one of the questions we're probably about to be joined by my third micromanager, my Bengal cat. He just turned 16. You know, one of the questions whenever I catch up with friends, I'm like, hey, how are you? What's going on? And usually it's like a list of accomplishments, which is great. And I want to support them. But I'm like, are you happy? Like, are you happy? And, you know, diving deep into that conversation of, are you happy? You know, are you doing something that makes you happy? And if it's not work, are you volunteering? Are you rescuing, you know, cats, you know, stuff like that? Are you fostering animals? Like, are you doing something that makes you happy? And I think ultimately the goal is to get to a career where you feel like you're not working a day in your life, right? So yeah. I ultimately, you know, I'll be vulnerable for a second. When I was working at Amazon, I was diagnosed with melanoma twice a week apart. And that was, you know, really tough. I was 25 at the time and had 2 melanoma diagnoses. And my bar for success for a minute while I was dealing with all this went from, hey, you know, I'm going to go do all this stuff. I'm going to go do every project. I'm going to do it well, to literally being, are you happy? And then so, you know, are you doing something you enjoy every day? Are you taking care of yourself? And then so kind of rebuilding my frame of mind of, are you happy is literally my baseline every day. Are you happy? Am I doing something that makes me happy? And then beyond that, what are the accomplishments that make me happy beyond there? So kind of thinking that mindset.
Yeah. You know, going back to what you said earlier about the timing, Matthew Runyon in chat just said commit absolutely 100%. Reminded me when I would ask my grandpa as a little kid, you know, it's like, hey, grandpa, when can I do this? When can I do that? You know, how much money do I need to save up to buy a house? You know, when should I go do this? And he'd always tell me, you could always, there's no time, like you're never going to be prepared to get married. You're never going to be prepared 100% to buy a house. You're never going to be prepared 100% to go to college, right? And that fear is what stops people. right? And you just got to get over that fear and just do it. And that's the only way you can learn. And then that's the only way that you can achieve. Like you said, you bet on yourself, Jen, and you just went guns a blazing to see, hey, this is me. And so
Yep.
I think chat has said a couple of times, yep, commit. You just got to put one foot forward. And that's it.
Mm-hmm. Apologies,
So,
micromanager is screaming into the microphone.
yeah.
He's
Well,
telling me it's 7 o'clock.
Mike, well, that's your yeah, we love the micromanager. Do you have any last words of advice here before we wrap up? Any inspiration tips?
Amir, would you like a cat?
Yay! Finally.
There you go, Amir.
Parting advice. What do I have any? Believe in yourself. That's what I want all of you to go do. Believe in yourself. Go do the thing. Go do the thing. Whatever that thing is that you have been wanting to go do the thing. Go do it.
Jen, thank you very, very much. Thank you for making the time for all of us. And this was just very, very lovely. And all right, Justin, what the teams always get ribbing me that I am like a surprisingly contrastingly high tech and low tech individual. So what button or bloop do we do next, Justin?
No, thank you guys for attending here, especially for the Discord audience. You can find us in the open networking channel right after this event. This will be recorded, so you can find the recording on LinkedIn or in our Discord channel as well. So Amir, Jen, audience, you guys have been great. Thank you for letting us pilot the LinkedIn Live. Hopefully this was a lot smoother. No glitches, Amir. I can actually hear you.
No, this was really beautiful. In all seriousness, Justin and team, thank you very much. This is a great format. Thank you very, very much.
Yep.
This was lovely. Thank you so much. Thank you, Amir, for inviting me. Thank you, Justin and team. Thank you, audience. My DMs are open. Feel free to reach out.
Sounds good. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.